A New Hampshire lawmaker right now is making a push to have the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard be in New Hampshire.
It's not the first time there's been a dispute over the boundary. We'll have more about that in a moment. But back to today, Republican Representative Joseph Barton has proposed legislation that the shipyard actually lies within his state's border and is making his case to fellow lawmakers and the Trump administration. One of the reasons Barton brought forward the resolution is taxes. New Hampshire residents who work there have to pay Maine income tax. In a statement to News Center Maine, Barton says New Hampshire has always had within its borders the Piscataqua River to the high water mark on the side of Maine. This resolution does not address the fishing lanes, which were established between the states in 1977.
Kittery Town Manager Kendra Amaral disagrees, saying the shipyard has only 2 land-based access points to the island, and both of them are through Kittery, Maine. She goes on to say if New Hampshire wants the shipyard, then they should need to build bridges to the island from their state and can assume all of the local road congestion and infrastructure impacts associated with hosting the shipyard. Now, as we mentioned a moment ago, this is not the first time the boundary issue has come into question.
Maine won a legal battle back in 2001. Here's Sid Whitaker's story on that.
Everyone knows it as the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard, but not everyone agrees which state it's in. Now the U.S. Supreme Court has settled the dispute with a ruling that keeps the shipyard in Maine.
We are very pleased with this decision, but we're not surprised.
Maine Attorney General Stephen Rose says he is not surprised because recent history seemed to support Maine's case. Maine's attorneys argued a decree signed by both Maine and New Hampshire in the mid-1970s had settled the boundary dispute then. That decree placed the border between the two states in the middle of the channel in the Piscataqua River. New Hampshire argued that new historical documents had come to light since then, which placed the actual border, as shown by the dotted line, along the Maine shoreline and the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard in New Hampshire. But the Supreme Court dismissed New Hampshire's suit.
This should come as no surprise to anyone, even though it was a matter that New Hampshire brought to the Supreme Court of the United States.
This case was about a lot more than simple bragging rights. At stake, millions of dollars in income tax money that Maine collects each year from workers at the shipyard.
New Hampshire officials called the court's ruling wrong and unfortunate for the shipyard's workers, who will continue to pay Maine taxes.
It does seem to me to be unfair that someone that lives in New Hampshire and works on federal property has to pay Maine income taxes, and even their family members, their spouse, would also have to pay the taxes even though they didn't work in Maine either. It's frustrating. It's frustrating to the people that have worked on this issue for so long.
But now the long-standing dispute over the border and the location of the shipyard may be water under the bridge. Sid Whitaker, News Center.